Welcome back into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, part number 3, week number 12, UCLA, USC, down to FIU and Arkansas. We're hitting every single game on the board with our 3-hole hitter up next at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Robbie Veno, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
I am good, Drew. You know, one of my favorite segments of the week. So geared up and ready to go here with this group of games that we're going to talk about for the folks watching.
Absolutely, and a good one to start us off. Shout out to the sponsors, betonline.ag. The game starts here in Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local time, 383-384, UCLA and USC, -6.5. That's the Trojans at home in the Coliseum. Short trip here for the Bruins, 65 being the total, 65.5 at some shops here, Robbie. Battle for Los Angeles. What are you thinking? Trojans and Bruins.
Yeah, it's funny, Drew. Every time I think that Caleb Williams and USC have absolutely nothing to play for, next week's game comes and I convince myself that they have something to play for. And of course, the rivalry with UCLA is more than enough motivation to come out and play hard. Maybe for the last time this year, who knows? But you'll get the same effort out of UCLA, who looked as if they were looking ahead to this game last week, right? You get beat by Arizona State 17-7. That was a strange game, especially offensively for UCLA. There's some rumors. I don't know if you heard the same, Drew, but this week I've been reading and hearing a little bit about UCLA maybe not keeping Chip Kelly as their head coach. So that'll be an interesting angle here as well. Maybe this is Chip's swan song as far as this rivalry goes. But I think there's something that we all know. We could state the obvious here, right? USC can score with anybody, can't play any defense. But I think the hidden factor here, probably the key to this game, is the UCLA pass rush, which has been dominant all season long, and the UCLA run defense, which has been really good. And I get, in college football, the sack yardage goes into that rushing defense total as well. But UCLA has been very good at the point of attack. We'll see if USC can keep Caleb Williams upright here, and if UCLA, with quarterback problems all season long, can do to USC's defense what everybody else has done this year. We've seen a little bit of movement toward the under. I think that's due to the fact that they're calling for light rain throughout the 4 hours here, but there's no wind to affect it. So Caleb Williams can probably, throw it through rain. It's a 12:30 West Coast start, a little bit early for these guys. I tend to think UCLA is the right side here, Drew. I didn't play, but I just like their defense overall against USC. And we found that if you have a team that can make that one extra stop or two extra stops, you can probably beat USC. So I would lean that way. I would lean UCLA.
All right, lean towards the Bruins here. Crazy. I didn't hear that about Brian Kelly. Is there any juice behind it, or just a headline?
I'm not sure. I started thinking, man, if Chip Kelly's not going to last in UCLA, then wouldn't it be funny if the SEC wound up with two Kellys, Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge and Chip Kelly in College Station? That would be crazy to think of, two Northeast guys down in those territories. But we'll see. Winning your rivalry can always save your job if, in fact, it's on the line. So I think UCLA probably a little extra motivation from the head coach here.
And Rob, but their relation, I mean, I almost feel bad asking this. Like, I should know this. Are they brothers or?
They're not. Not to the best of my knowledge, they're not related whatsoever. Chip is a New Hampshire guy, and Brian Kelly is he started in the MAC with Central Michigan, I believe. But no, to the best of my knowledge, they're not related.
No, I've never heard that they were or anything like that. But now that I'm thinking about it, you just talked about it. Their last names are Kelly, and they do sort of like look alike, like if you said they were brothers.
Right. They're both, Northern Irish guys where, it just wouldn't, I didn't think it would fit in Baton Rouge. Who knows if it would fit in College Station, but I think a lean to UCLA might be the way to go there.
All right, good start here, guys. As UCLA, USC in the books, we've got about 12 games in this segment. Feel free to chime in if you're watching live on YouTube or the comments below and wherever you're downloading your podcast at. Every game on the board. We get Nevada, Colorado State up next, Robbie. 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 Pacific here. 46.5 being the total. Minus 11 and a hook, as high as minus 12 and a hook. That's Colorado State as the home favorite.
It seems a little excessive to lay that with Colorado State, Drew. And, Nevada hasn't been great, but they've been a little better as of late. So I would be hesitant to go ahead and lay it there. But I wouldn't be hesitant to play the total here. Last week I had Utah State, Nevada over the number. They got well over the number, despite the fact that money came in late, and pretty good amount of money came in late Saturday on the under, but it went over. Utah State continued to score. And to some extent, Colorado State moves the football the same way Utah State does. They just don't do it at the same exact pace. So I could see points being scored on that side, and I don't trust the Colorado State defense. It was interesting to me, Drew, and maybe Nevada's just a team that's priced this way, where totals are concerned, but 47.5 without any snow or anything in Fort Collins kind of seemed low to me with that offense that Colorado State possesses, and they put it in the air a lot. The fact that Nevada gives it up a lot, and they've played a little bit better offense as of late. So 47.5, my feelings. College football nowadays, they could almost get that by mistake. I would lean over 47.5 in that game.
6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Cal and Stanford up next. The band is on the field here, Robbie. We get the Golden Bears minus 7-point road favorites, 55 being the total. You liking anything Cal and Stanford on the farm?
There's a couple motivational angles you could, seek out and maybe play here, Drew, if you like to base things on just one element. But for Stanford, obviously, they're taking off to the ACC. Cal is not. And they probably, I don't know if the rivalry is going to remain or if it won't. But the other side of this coin, and I think the most important side of this coin, is that Stanford can stop Cal from going to a bowl game with a win here. Cal sits at, I think, 5 wins or 4 wins. They need this win to get themselves either bowl eligible after this game or with a chance to be bowl eligible next week. Stanford's out of it at 3-7. So I would think that Stanford, extra motivation to keep their rivals out, but Cal moves the ball so good, Drew. Oh, my goodness. What a turnaround. And Justin Wilcox's team that scores points and gains yards the way that they do, it's just amazing. And then he's supposed to be or he always has been. I won't say supposed to be. He always has been a defensive-minded sort of guru-type coach. And the defense has gone south all season long, starting with the season opener against North Texas. So I would say you have to look over in this game. It seems to me that it'll be a shootout. Stanford, for what it's worth, with the new coaching staff this year, has made some strides with that passing game, with that offense. So to me, I'm going to look over. I don't see a heck of a lot of defense. And one last point I'll make and I'll make this point for the last time over the course of these next couple of weeks. When you get to this point in the season, I feel like defenses are the units that are worn down. Defenses no longer want to tackle anymore 10 weeks into the season, unless you're an elite defense that rotates 8-9 guys across your defensive line, and you've got a lot of subs that can fill in. Some of these teams that are depth shy to begin with, by the end of the year, they're beaten up. By the end of the year, you see worse tackling, and I wouldn't be surprised. Not that you can get any worse than the way Cal is tackled this year, but you get my point. I think at the end of the year, we tend to get a few more overs up until bowl season, when teams have, 2-3 weeks off to heal up and get ready for a game. So I'm going to look over in this one.
Yeah, interesting point. I agree with you, Robbie. I mean, outside of those teams that can really, as a head coach in college football, that's what you're looking for. Really, a head coach at any level is like 8-10 defensive linemen and just keep rotating them in. When you only got 4 or 5, yeah, that second half, you're going to be giving up some yards. There's just really no way around that. And Robbie, I think in the beginning you mentioned Cal not going to the ACC. I think they are, though. I think Stanford, Cal, and SMU are, right?
You're absolutely right. It's Washington State and Oregon State that are left out in the cold. As soon as I said it, I realized it was wrong. And so the only motivational angle you have in this game is the fact that Stanford can keep Cal from getting bowl eligible.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to keep up with what conferences these teams are in. I remember like week 1 or 2, I would be saying, like I usually do, hey, this conference versus this conference, and you'd have to correct me. Actually, it's this conference. It's very difficult. Hopefully they settle in here after next year and we can get used to some of this, Rob. We got Georgia State and LSU up next, 8:00 Eastern in Death Valley, Louisiana. We get LSU. Go Tigers, minus 31.5 point home favorites, 72.5 being the total, Rob. I wouldn't be surprised because I think Georgia State can score too. So I kind of like this over. Any opinion as the SEC hosts the Sun Belt?
I would have to say the same, Drew. I mean, nobody holds LSU to under 45 nowadays. And Georgia State, I think, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. I think they have given up 40 points or better in 4 straight games. And with that type of defense, and remember, Georgia State had a really good record early on, and then they played that game against Georgia Southern.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed like everything's gone south since then for this team as far as defense is concerned. So does Jaden Daniels want to stack up 400 passing yards and another 150 rushing yards to help his Heisman push? That could be. If I were Brian Kelly, you'd probably get him out of there mid-4th quarter or so you don't get him hurt. But I would have to believe that they're going to pile up statistics for him against the defense that he can get them against. And then, like you say, Georgia State's very capable of scoring, especially against this defense. Once again, we're talking about a poor defense. That LSU and USC are somewhat mirror images this year. LSU's been able to pull out a couple of games that USC hasn't, but boy, they're just both like the same team. They can score at will, but they can't stop anybody. So if you're looking to play total, there's no way I could recommend under. This thing could get over. And again, it's dependent upon how long they want to play Daniels in the first string. But I would think with the Heisman talk now, they would want to play him for at least 3 quarters.
And Rob, just off the top of your head, if you don't know, did Brian Kelly, like throughout his career, does he like to run up the score? Do you remember? It's not coming to my mind.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? At Notre Dame, I don't remember him as being that guy, Drew. I really don't remember him as being that guy. It could have been when he was at Central Michigan in the MAC. He might have run it up as he was trying to climb the coaching ladder, but I don't remember him being that guy at Notre Dame.
All right, guys, we got UL Monroe in Mississippi up next. Ole Miss minus 37 as high as minus 38 here as the home favorite, 63 being the total. This is kicking us off on Saturday. I don't know, Rob. Anything Sunbelt SEC again here?
I mean, we can basically repeat what we just said, right? Okay. I mean, UL Monroe's not going to stop. Jackson Dart may not play here, right? The quarterback for Ole Miss. But if he doesn't, it's Spencer Sanders, the guy who was the starting quarterback for Oklahoma State. So does that make a difference? Probably not. I don't know that there's much separation between those two, especially against UL Monroe. Does Lane Kiffin want to take it a little easy on Terry Bowden? It's possible. But Lane Kiffin generally doesn't take it easy on anybody, regardless of, family name or possible connection, relationship-wise. So you have to believe Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is off a loss, right? So do you find them in a letdown situation, or do you find them in a let's go out and kill somebody situation? And generally with Kiffin, you think the latter because that's what he likes to do. So I would have to say Ole Miss. The difference between this game and the Georgia State LSU game to me, Drew, is Mississippi, when faced with a team that doesn't necessarily have a ton of offensive firepower, they've shown the ability to play defense where LSU is not. So I wouldn't be as quick to get to the over with this game as I would the LSU game, but you might want to get to the Mississippi side because I think Lane Kiffin will win by however many he wants to win by.
Rob, I had this one circled as well, but then going through, I realized the Egg Bowl is on deck.
Yeah.
And that's a short week. It's played on Thanksgiving. That's the only thing that makes me worry about really laying the number with Ole Miss. But I could see a lot of points with you. We get North Texas and Tulsa, another high total here, 69.5. -2, -1, -2 in the hook is all out there. That's the Mean Green as the short road favorite. Do you like anything North Texas and Tulsa?
Well, North Texas got introduced to the SMU defense last week, right? And they were in it until they weren't in it anymore. And SMU broke loose. Preston Stone and company put up a ton of points, and SMU's defense finally took hold. But North Texas is going to move the ball against Tulsa. Drew, we talked about Tulsa last week, how horrendous their defense has been over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. North Texas can run it with Oscar Attaway. They can throw it. The bad part about them is in the AAC, which I know I'm correct on this. They are now members of the AAC. There's 14 teams in that league, and they're 14th in total defense. So Tulsa, despite the fact that they can never figure out who their quarterback is, should be able to score as well. I'm not playing any North Texas game under. I'm not going to get to North Texas minus points, although if you're going to lay points with North Texas, this is the vicinity you would want to be in, less than a field goal. They could probably win this one by a field goal against Tulsa, but I'd be much more comfortable saying that this game goes 38-31 and gets over the total.
Next one up here, Robbie, we get UL Lafayette or Louisiana. They're going by the Ragin' Cajuns versus the Troy Trojans. -16. That is the Trojans at home. 47 being the total. Two of the best Sunbelt programs, but Louisiana's fallen on some tough times. You liking anything in Troy, Alabama, Rob?
You know, I won't say that I like it, Drew, but I'll say that I recognize it because I beat my head against the brick wall early in the season and just stopped doing it. Troy unders are just really, you're supposed to play Troy under anytime they're on the field. Two reasons why. A, their defense is so good, especially against Sunbelt competition. They're going to wind up in the Sunbelt championship game. And B, because this team is just good enough with Gunnar Watson at quarterback and their running game. They're just good enough to move the ball from the 20 to the opponent's 15 and then screw up a drive and kick a field goal. And they don't score enough touchdowns to play them over at any point in time. To them, 23, 27, that's plenty. Defense will do the rest. And Louisiana hasn't shown the capability really this year against better competition. Whenever they've stepped up, it hasn't been good. I don't think it'll be good here for them offensively. Maybe they're a year away from getting back to Sunbelt upper tier status. But right now, I would probably just play this game under. And again, I'm saying I don't like it, but I do recognize it now. Troy State or Troy under is about the only way you can go with them.
Like the breakdown, Robbie. Next one here. Really interested in your opinion. SMU and Memphis, two of the better AAC schools. Kicking us off on Saturday, 397, 398 as we're making our way down every game on the board in rotation order. -8. That's SMU, the Mustangs, Rhett Lashley, Preston Stone and company. 65 being the total here, Rob. SMU, Memphis from the Liberty Bowl. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a good game, Drew. This is a really good game. And for once, SMU has the defensive capability that maybe they wish they had when Sonny Dykes was there and they were scoring all kinds of points but just couldn't stop anybody. This year, they're good enough to make those couple extra stops. A couple things, because I had this game the other day on a Wager Talk show, and two things I looked at here. Both of these teams, when you go through their game logs, it doesn't matter. If you're a good run defense, then either of these teams will beat you through the air. If you're a real good pass defense, then it doesn't matter. They'll beat you on the ground. So the balance offensively for both of these teams is tremendous. It comes down kind of to a battle of quarterback Seth Hennigan against Preston Stone, and they're both very, very capable. I think the biggest key in this game is SMU has gotten quarterback pressure all season long. I think they have 33 sacks right now. That's tops in the AAC. It's among the best in the country. And so Memphis hasn't allowed many sacks, Drew, only 17 all season long. and it averages out to 1 sack every 21 and a half pass attempts. So who's going to win that battle? Is the offensive line going to keep Seth Hennigan clean? Is the SMU pass rush better than what Memphis has faced this season long? Not sure that we'll know the answer until all is said and done. You could guess off of what you've seen, what you think will happen. But to me, SMU laying this many points, they've left a lot of teams in games this year, Drew. And if you just go back to the Rice game and look at the statistics in that game and see how badly SMU beat Rice, and yet that final score was 36-31, with JT Daniels only throwing for like 140 yards or maybe less in that game. He didn't do anything. And they still only lost by 5. SMU on the road couldn't cover. So I think in a game here, where you have 2 of 4 teams, right? I think the AAC is basically down to a semifinal elimination to see who gets into that conference championship. SMU is one of the 3 undefeateds. Memphis is the 4th team that has 1 loss. They can still make it into the championship game. All the marbles are on the table here. I'd be more apt to take 8 with Memphis. The back door is always open for that team. SMU's left it open for teams. However, I don't know how you stop these teams from getting to 66. I really don't, because it should be up and down and up and down. Maybe last team with the ball wins. Memphis's games, I think the last 5 here, I got the notes right in front of me here. The last 5 games, they've scored, their games have totaled, the last 4 games, 82, 109, 87, and 66. Their average as a team is 48.3 points per game their last 4. It's a really good offense. SMU has one too. I think I'd lean over. I'd probably play over and lean Memphis plus.
Yeah, it looks like clear skies, 60 degrees too, kicking us off on Saturday. So I'm with you, Rob. I see a lot of points, and if you like Rob's side analysis there, guys, it's -8 for SMU across the board. So if you were looking for Memphis to kind of come through that back door, stay within the 8, however, might as well put the hook in your pocket, because it's -8 across the board. There's one shop out there, -8.5. So you can get Memphis plus 8.5 at betonline.ag, the proud sponsor of the show, guys. The game starts here. Betonline.ag, Memphis plus 8.5, the lone shop doing so. We got Temple and UAB up next, 3 o'clock Eastern from Birmingham, Alabama. Blazers -7 or -7.5 as the home favorite, 62.5 being the total. Anything with the Owls and the Blazers?
Well, they've both played Navy the last 2 weeks, and Drew, I thought UAB would show better than Navy destroyed them last week, 31-6, after losing to Temple the week before. Sometimes A plus B doesn't equal C in this business. We've been around long enough to know that. But this one just didn't make a heck of a lot of sense, especially UAB had their quarterback Jacob Zeno back. He's been tremendous all season long. But they just could not move the football on Navy. However, I'm going to treat that as more of a mirage than reality here. I talked a little bit last week about how I thought Trent Dilfer had built a pretty solid offensive line for their running game and pass protection. It stuck out to me a couple of times this year. Didn't show up last week. Of course, last week they just couldn't defend the run. And UAB doesn't need a lot of time to score points, but Navy had the ball quite a bit in that one. I think UAB bounces back here. I really do. You have to respect E.J. Warner and Temple's ability to score as well. So maybe you look for a track meet here. UAB's certainly been involved in a bunch of track meets already this year. And since Warner has come back, Temple's offense obviously has picked up. Total 64.5, 65. Still doesn't seem like it's all that heavy in a game where, UAB could be headed for 40 plus. Temple, one of the worst defenses in the nation. UAB, one of the worst defenses in the nation. So it's hard to recommend under unless you have a lot of mistakes and a lot of ball control, and neither team plays ball control. So I'd have to think it gets over.
Guys, we've got 3 games left. Feel free to chime in the live chat box. Any questions, we'll answer them here. And in the comments below, we'll answer them on next week's show, Thanksgiving week actually coming up. So we'll be doing the podcast earlier in the week. But next game up, 401, 402, Texas, Iowa State, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's 7 p.m. local time here in Ames. Should be a pretty good atmosphere, Robbie. -7.5. That's Texas as the road favorite. 47 being the total. Weird things happen in Ames, Iowa at night. Could that be here with the underdog barking, Rob?
Boy, it's possible, Drew. Think back to the start of the season, right? When Iowa State was the center of that gambling scandal, right? Quarterback gets kicked off the team for betting $20. I mean, a pop. It looked at the time like maybe Iowa State was headed for a really, really poor season, much like Northwestern, much like Oklahoma State. Credit to all three of those head coaches for turning the season around for all three. And when you look at Iowa State, you're talking about 4 wins in their last 5 games inside conference. So again, I think that at this point in time, we can treat Iowa State the way we have treated them the previous years, right? As a thorn in somebody's side, as a team that at any given point in time can play enough defense, control the ball enough to upset a favorite. And especially at home, like you say, Ames will be rocking. Texas suffered a big injury last week. Jonathan Brooks, star running back. I think he might be gone for the season, but he's out here. Certainly Texas has horses behind him, but Brooks was running so well this season that comes as a pretty big loss. I think after seeing enough of Iowa State under this head coach for so many years, that they will probably deny Texas any let's call them game-breaking style plays through the air. Everything underneath, sure tackling, make them work. Xavier Worthy and the receiving core at Texas is dynamic, and they love to get big chunks. And if they don't get them, Drew, you wonder if they'll get a little frustrated here. I would have to say 7.5 doesn't sound like a lot in this game, because I think the perception all season long is Texas is really good and Iowa State's mediocre. But I think 7.5 is a lot in this game. So I would lean toward the Iowa State side plus the points here. I just think that the design of their defense over the years kind of fits and will, I don't want to say suffocate, but you get what I mean. When they go into these umbrella style defenses and force you to be patient, let's see if Quinn Ewers and company can be patient against Iowa State.
Oklahoma State and Houston up next. Another Big 12 matchup here. 4:00 Eastern. We're seeing the Cowboys -6 in the hook as the road favorite, Rob. 59 being the total in Houston. We get the Cowboys and the Cougars. Anything here?
Well, I mean, there's letdowns and then there's letdowns. I mean, Oklahoma State wins the Bedlam game and then comes up last week and loses 45-3 to UCF. Oklahoma State, Drew, just to put that 3 points scored into some type of context, they had the football 5 times inside Central Florida territory and didn't score a point on 5 drives. 3 of those were inside the 25 and didn't score a point. So whether it was a fumble, whether it was an interception, whether it was a turnover on downs, they had 5 trips in and 0 to show for it. I doubt that happens here against Houston. Ollie Gordon and company, he should have had a big rushing day against UCF last week. They can't play any rush defense. They didn't. There was some rain early in that game, right? I think second quarter, rain came fairly heavy. Second half, it stopped. But I see them scoring here. And I think Houston will probably do their share too. Dana Holgorsen with some ties to Oklahoma State, right? So maybe there's still a little of that in the back of his mind. I think he'll pull out all the tricks here for Again, I've said it a lot, but we happen to have a block of games here where we've talked about a lot of really good offenses and a lot of poor defenses. Oklahoma State's defense isn't poor, but I think Donovan Smith, who remember was the quarterback at Texas Tech before he got to Houston, he's seen Oklahoma State's defense before. I think they'll get their share too. To me, this number was posted under 60, and I think this game probably gets into the 60s, mostly based on the fact that I'm looking for a big offensive bounce back out of OSU here in this one.
Up and over, possibly. We got last game on the card here for part number 3. We're going to bring in Peter Loshak to be the closer this week, but we got FIU and Arkansas before best bet here, Robbie. We're seeing Razorbacks -29 in the hook as the home favorite, 50 being the total. So big number here, not a huge total. And we get FIU on the road here, Robbie. You liking anything with the Panthers and the Razorbacks?
Do you know, Drew, that if FIU wins out, they're bowl eligible? They're 4-6. Amazing. I had to look like 5 times at that. I'm like, how could FIU be bowl eligible? That's impossible. But they are. And obviously, Arkansas is going to go through an awful lot of change in the offseason. Already fired an offensive coordinator, right? Danny Nos out. This is a game for them to just get all their frustrations out, in my mind. I would think that they score their share of points here. And again, these Sun Belt teams are taking big paychecks at the end of the year. But Florida International, like I say, they have a shot at bowl eligibility here. So I have to believe they're going to give it their all. Whether their all is good enough to hang within 30, questionable. I mean, they might not hang within 30 in the first half. They're capable of that too. But I think that they probably do hang around enough. I think Arkansas wins big, but not big enough. If I had to play, I'd be looking at the motivated dog here, plus the points, an awful lot of points.
Sure, Rob. FIU bowl eligibility. Yeah, one team fighting for bowl eligibility, and that's the one catching 29.5. Kind of a weird situation. We get 99 asking, Rob, any thoughts? Arkansas State and Texas State, if you have anything. Just like to hit the chat box real quick.
Yeah, I would like Texas State in that game for sure. Generally, I would say I like it over. But Arkansas State has shown the potential to fade in and out where offense is concerned. The freshman quarterback's been good at times, Raynor. And then there's other times against upper level competition in Sunbelt where he hasn't been good. Texas State's so consistent offensively that they can cover pretty big numbers. I would probably look Texas State.
And we got Deep Fry Ty in the house saying, you've been busy. You were on ski show earlier. So you're all over the place here, Robbie, putting in the work, man. It's November. So I know you got a lot of sports going on. What's your day looking like? Just waking up and doing handicapping and then telling people about it?
Yeah, and today was super early, Drew, because Wager Talk's NBA tip-off show on Thursdays, which I'm a part of, actually goes at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Something they started new this year. And in fact, real quick story here. I hate to admit it because I never miss shows. But the first week, I saw that I was on Wager Talk's NBA tip-off on Thursday. I'm like, okay, I'm on Thursday. All right. And then at 9 a.m., I'm texting with the host, Joe Ranieri. Show starts at 10. I don't show up because I didn't realize it was a 10 a.m. show. And they're like, Rob, we're waiting on you. So I've gotten used to that now. But yeah, today it was NBA early. It was ski in the middle of the day. Close it out with yourself. And glad to do so.
All right. Well, hopefully you got a good happy hour dinner heading your way here, Robbie. And hopefully we can put some money in some people's pockets. Do you have a best bet either from this section or another game you want to throw out for tonight, tomorrow, Saturday?
Let's go back in our section, Drew.
Okay.
And I'll just point out that I think that the total in the Oklahoma State-Houston game, I said it earlier, I just think it's too low. The 3 points that they scored last week were ridiculous. They should have had at least low 20s to mid 20s. I think they bounced back with well over 35 here. And Houston's going to find a way to get their share too. So as long as this thing stays under 60, which it is, I'm going to be on over Oklahoma State, Houston. Best bet for the show.
All right. That's over 58 is the low water mark here, guys. Oklahoma State and Houston over 58. Shout out to the sponsors of the show, Bet Online. If you're looking for a sports book, guys, go check them out. betonline.ag. The game starts here. And Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Our flavors pair perfectly with our Artisanal Blanco tequila for subtle and refreshing drinks. Check them out, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Robbie, anything else before we shut this down?
Let me just thank Pete DuBois as I look on my screen here, Drew, for complimenting the work that I do. I appreciate it. Pete, we're glad you watch. I say it all the time, but without Drew and I have been at it, this segment, for a long, long time. And there's a lot of followers that have been with us the whole way. So we appreciate all you guys watching. Hopefully we're giving you the best we can give you. And it's helping you guys out when you go to cash tickets over the weekend. So good luck to everybody this weekend. And then, like Drew said, we'll be at it early next week because of the holiday.
Absolutely, Robbie. Great job as always. Thanks, Pete. Deep Fried Tie, 99 in here as well, chiming in, guys. And wherever you're downloading your podcast at, every game on the board. We'll be back early next week with Robbie Veno, and we got Pete Loshak to finish it up here, guys, coming up shortly. So stay with us. Until then, cash those tickets. Thanks for tuning in.